Okay.
Okay, welcome to Literary Pleasures, your YouTube channel for reviews on novels, short stories, and poems that give pleasure and enjoyment. In today's video, we have as a guest author Garet Christopher. Author Garet Christopher has written 4 books. You can find his books on the Barnes and Noble site. Author Garet Christopher, you are welcome. His career as a full-time writer took off 6 years ago, and he has never looked back despite the challenges of writing. A Certain Obsession, his 4th book that we'll be discussing today, is what is the current focus for this video. And he told me that he has a 5th book that is in the wings, a sci-fi story. So please, Mr. Christopher, is there any other information you would like our viewers to know about you?
Oh, just that I am, even though I've been doing this for several years, I am definitely a new author, and but I'm so excited. I love writing. I love creating characters and scenes and storylines and all of that, And I just hope that as people get more familiar with the books, and I have a couple of audiobooks also that I've created, as they become more familiar with them, I would love feedback. I want to know what the reader, what I think of my work is one thing, but what really matters is what the reader or the listener thinks about the work. So yes, feedback, whether good, bad, or indifferent, that would really help me in the future.
Okay, so you have had. Pick a copy of his book and read it and give him feedback about it. Now, I will give you a summary of the novel, A Certain Obsession. But before I do that, I'd like to let you in on a secret. Mr. Christopher is giving away a free copy of his novel to one of our viewers today. Just watch the video to the end and you will see what to do to get the free copy. Now, for the summary of A Certain Obsession, the main character is Tony Pruitt. Tony Pruitt is a successful sportsman, though retired, but he has a weakness. He is a womanizer, and this is his obsession and the main theme in the novel. He gets lusty with a married woman, Barbara Jenkins, when she and her husband comes to buy his house. Tony Pruitt will do anything for his perversion. He tries to seduce Barbara, but she will not commit adultery with him, so he decides to kidnap her. He holds her hostage in her own house, and the husband does not know, and the police who investigate the kidnap are not even aware that she is even in that same house. Eventually, Tony Pruitt kills the husband, Beth Jenkins. The wife, Barbara, manages to escape and she reports the story to the police, but the police do not believe her. They think that she's lying because they do not know of any Tony Pruitt in the town, and they keep thinking that it is her husband who is behind the kidnapping. Now, Mr. Christopher, Tony Pruitt comes across as a troubled man. What was behind his perversion towards women? Is it related to a traumatic incident in his past?
So a lot of what he is, when he sees Barbara, he is stricken immediately. Being a professional athlete and someone who has a lot of money, a lot of fame, he played for a number of years in the major leagues. He's not used to being told no. And, being, like you said, being a womanizer, he kind of, when he feels that when he sees someone or something that he wants, he should be able to get it. In most cases, that just means maybe a one night fling, or, just a little bit of a flirting. In this case, this woman just really grabs him for whatever reason. And so he becomes addicted to her and to being with her. So really, all this stems, and there's a couple other things also that I don't want to give away, but this is a major point that he just is someone that is used to getting what he wants, and when she declines his advancements, that makes it even more interesting to him.
Yeah. We've had several famous personalities who have had problems like Tony Pruitt. Recently, the governor of New York is being asked to step down because of sexual allegations. Did you have a personality in mind when you were plotting the character of Tony Pruitt?
Not specifically, but like you said, there have been enough, especially over my lifetime, of situations, usually with athletes, actors, singers, that kind of a thing, and politicians sometimes as well, that deal with that. So definitely, I felt like it was not an odd thing for a professional athlete to act in a certain way based on, past experiences, but no one specific, just overall. Mhm.
Good. Now, there's another character I would like to ask you about, Raoul Gilliam, the officer investigating the kidnap case. Raoul Gilliam comes across to me as a sentimental man. You see, Beth Jenkins is the suspect in the kidnap case, but Beth Jenkins is a friend to Raoul Gilliam, the officer. I felt that because of the friendship, he would have excused himself from the case rather than investigating him, because it would have been difficult for him to be objective or unemotional. Why didn't he excuse himself from the case?
Well, initially, when there was a situation with a child's kidnapping, and this was a second major event that had taken place around the property there where Mr. and Mrs. Jenkins lived. The first one being the disappearance of his wife, Barbara. Um, Raul Raul always had a great pride in himself for being someone who can look at someone or a situation and determine if they're a truth teller, right? If they're being honest, or if there's something shady going on. He always felt that Bert was honest about everything. So when he saw that another thing was happening here, and this elderly gentleman was definitely going to be questioned by the police, he took it upon himself, maybe in a protective manner, to do his own investigating. He actually goes into the house at one point when Bert is not there to do some looking around. So initially, that was him just saying, "I can't believe this guy would do something like kidnapping a child. How would he even think of that? I just don't get it." So that was initially, but then he got more involved actually when the FBI, through another friend of his, an ex-girlfriend of his, got him kind of matched up with the agent that was in charge of the FBI investigation, which it turns into once the child abduction comes into play and all that. So really, he was pulled into the investigation as time went on, and did some things on his own, because that's kind of like his nature, right? He's kind of like my comic relief throughout and like I said, it's very sentimental. He definitely has, of all the characters, is the most sentimental as far as him, putting his heart out there through the ex-girlfriend and his friendship with Bert and all that kind of a thing. But the FBI pulled him in because they knew that, first of all, he lived in that area, in this small town in Georgia, but then also he knew Bert. So they were using him to speak with some people, some of Bert's friends, just to try and find more things out about this person. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's true. So last week, Monday, was the International Women's Day. And while reading through your novel, I highlighted 3 women in the novel. One of them was Barbara Jenkins, who was kidnapped and who later escaped. The other is Mrs. Wilkins, who is a chatterer and a busybody. And then Officer Wenihan, who, with Rahul, broke into Beth Jenkins' room, and she was quite adept at doing so. Your female characters are strong personalities. I was wondering, was there a woman in your life that inspired the way you portrayed your female characters?
No one specifically, although I can say, I'm a little over 50 now, so I've been around a lot of strong women. Be it my mother, mother-in-law, relatives, aunts, uncles, grandparents, co-workers, bosses, subordinates. Um, yeah, and actually it makes me feel good that you felt that the female characters in the book were strong characters and that there was a strong sense about them. You know, for me as a man to write and to kind of describe and portray a woman, and a lot of them have a very large piece in this book, you know what I mean? That means a lot to me, because that means that I've been listening to the females, wife, daughters, whomever in my life, as to how they would speak, how they would say certain things, and they played a major role as far as kind of bringing the book along and adding a lot of just a good edge to it, you know. But no one specifically, just overall, I've always been surrounded by a number of strong women.
Yeah, they brought an interesting edge to the story. I also noticed that you use flashbacks a lot in telling the story. Most writers, when they are writing, they write the story in sequential manner from A to B to C, but you go in between flashback, A to D, D to B, B to J, J to C. Why did you prefer to use flashbacks in telling the story?
You know what? When I first began writing it, and I think I was in chapter 2, I believe, and for whatever reason, there was information that I wanted to get across, and I didn't want it to be just a couple of sentences or a paragraph. This was major information, but I didn't want to start the book out there. I wanted to start it more toward the middle. That was essential, that it started somewhere after Barbara Jenkins disappeared, right? But then how was I going to tell that story? So I kind of came up with that idea. And for me, that was very, very difficult. It was also very delicate for me to try and balance. So the reader, as they go through, is not confused as to where they are. So in the book, the actual written, I actually changed the font, right, for the flashbacks to help bring that up. And I tried to make it as clear as possible. I have a person who read it just last week, and they were saying how it made sense to them. It was not confusing. So, but that was a concern of mine. Yeah, when I was putting it together.
It wasn't confusing. It was an interesting new way of writing. Now, one suspenseful aspect of the story was how Tony Pruitt successfully hid Barbara in her own house under her husband's roof, and in the house the police searched, and nobody knew she was in that house. I'll leave it to you, the reader, to find out how the suspense went. How did Tony Pruitt succeed in doing that? Get a copy of the book and find out for yourself. Now, let's talk a little about your writing, Mr. Christopher. What inspires you to write? Like, I'm writing my first novel now, and I'm on like 30,000 words, and I'm like, oh, I'm stumped. But your novel is about 135,000 words. What motivates you?
So I'll give you two answers here. First of all, I started a novel book about 15, 16 years ago. And that was because my son, who at the time was 11, 12 years old, very much into sports, but I couldn't find anything for him that was interesting. You know what I mean? He was not a reader. Even now, does not really like, he will not pick up a book. He'd rather be on his phone or his computer, right? So I wanted to find something that would interest him, but everything I looked at that was sports related was very dated. You know, these were things were written back in the 60s and 70s, and it just was not interesting. So I started to write a book. And I had kind of him in mind and our family and all these kinds of things. And I got about 2/3 of the way through. So what drove me at that time was the goal to get something that he would like, that he would actually read, to try and kind of create a hunger for him as far as reading. For me, it was comic books when I was young. That's what got me into reading. And then from that point, it was easy, as long as the story was good, to be involved, you know. So that's what started there. Well, guess what? He still didn't read it. I never finished it, and it didn't solve the issue as far as him wanting to read or not. But when I started my first novel, which is titled The Chair, that was an idea that came up, and it just grabbed me. And it was like I had to finish it. I had to do it. And like you said, it was very tedious. It took a couple of years to write the first draft. And I remember there were days and days I was off from my regular job and spending hours in front of the computer, and I might write 2 pages, right? 3 pages. And yeah, very, very tedious. But you know what? It's just as tough as it is, as difficult as it was kind of like I felt I had something to say. And you know what? I think if anything, it was the characters and the fun part of creating them and making them interesting that has kind of kept me going, you know, kept me involved.
Yeah, that's quite nice. So viewers, you've heard what motivates him to write. Now, I'll be posting or publishing several videos in the coming days. Like on Friday, the videos that will be out is The Magnificent Ambersons by Booth Parkinson. So subscribe to this channel to get notified when the video is out. So I'd like to say a big thank you to Mr. Christopher for giving us the opportunity to be acquainted with his wonderful novel, A Certain Obsession. Are there any last words you would like to say, Mr. Christopher?
I just want to thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. Everything was very professional and you really helped prepare me for this. I really, really thank you because that's where I'm struggling now, more than just the writing, but somehow getting my works out there. I think that they're good works, but they won't do any good until people see them and read them. By the way, when you get to the point as far as wanting to get, you know, someone a copy of the book, I want to offer something else as well, but we can talk about that when you're ready.
Yeah. So that's a giveaway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Christopher says he's giving away a free copy of his book, A Certain Obsession. So how would you get it? You have to do something. Go to the video entitled Book Review, His Family by Ernest Poe. Look it up and find out what is one of the themes in that novel, His Family by Ernest Poe. Write out one of the themes in the comment section below. And if you get it right, I'll surely send you a copy of the book, courtesy of Mr. Christopher, our author today. So on behalf of our readers, I would like to say thank you, Mr. Christopher.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay.